The pregnancy test showed 2 pink lines. I sat on the bathroom floor, my hands trembling as I stared at that little plastic stick that was about to change everything. Chad and I had been married for 3 years, together for 5. We'd talked about kids someday, always someday, never today. But here it was. Today, whether we were ready or not. I heard his key in the lock downstairs. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stood up, gripping the test like a lifeline. This wasn't how I'd imagined telling him. In my fantasies, I'd planned something cute, maybe a little onesie gift wrapped, or a clever announcement at dinner. Instead, I was standing in our bathroom with mascara smudged under my eyes from crying, wearing his old college t-shirt and mismatched socks. "Becca?" His voice carried up the stairs. "You home?" "Up here," I called back, my voice cracking slightly. His footsteps on the stairs sounded heavier than usual, or maybe that was just my imagination, my anxiety making everything feel weighted with significance. When he appeared in the doorway, his work shirt untucked, his hair slightly disheveled from the October wind, I couldn't read his expression. "Long day?" I asked, stalling. "You could say that." He loosened his tie, then noticed I'd been crying. "What's wrong?" I held out the test, my hand shaking so badly the little window blurred. "I'm pregnant." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I watched his face cycle through emotions, surprise, confusion, something I couldn't quite place. Then, to my horror, I saw panic. Pure, undiluted panic. "You're sure?" His voice was strangled. "I took 3 tests, Chad. They're all positive." He sank onto the edge of our bed, his head in his hands. This wasn't the reaction I'd hoped for, but I understood. It was a shock. We'd been careful, mostly. But life finds a way, doesn't it? "We'll figure it out," I said, sitting beside him, placing my hand on his back. "I know it's sooner than we planned, but Rebecca." The way he said my name made my blood run cold. He never called me Rebecca unless something was seriously wrong. "There's something I need to tell you." The words that came out of his mouth next shattered my world into a million irreparable pieces. "I've been seeing someone else." I pulled my hand back from his shoulder as if I'd been burned. "What?" "Her name is Melissa. She works in accounting at my firm. She's 24. 24. I was 31. The math of betrayal is always cruel, isn't it? 7 years younger, fresh out of college. Probably still believed in fairy tales and men who meant their wedding vows. How long? My voice sounded disconnected from my body, like it belonged to someone else entirely. 4 months. 4 months. I thought back summer barbecues where he'd kissed my cheek and called me beautiful. Our anniversary dinner where he'd promised me forever. The weekend trip to the coast where we'd made love on the beach at sunset. All of it tainted now. All of it a lie. "You said you loved me yesterday morning," I whispered. "I'd love you." "Don't." I stood up, pacing to the window. Outside, our neighbor was raking leaves, his kids jumping in the piles. Normal life continuing while mine imploded. "You don't get to say that anymore." I never meant for this to happen. Melissa and I, we just... "Stop saying her name!" I whirled around. "I don't care about your affair origin story. I'm pregnant, Chad, with your baby. What are we going to do about that?" He stood up then, and I saw it in his eyes before he even said the words. He was leaving. My husband of 3 years was about to walk out on me and our unborn child. "I can't do this," he said, already backing toward the door. "I'm not ready to be a father. Melissa and I, we have plans. We're moving to Seattle." Her company offered her a promotion. "You're moving to Seattle?" The room spun. "When were you planning to tell me this? After you'd already left?" "I was going to tell you this weekend. I swear I was going to do this right. There's no right way to abandon your pregnant wife." He flinched but kept moving toward the door. "I'll pack some things now. I'll come back for the rest later." I watched in stunned silence as he pulled a suitcase from our closet, where his clothes hung next to mine, where we'd made love just 3 nights ago and started throwing things in. Shirts I'd bought him for Christmas, the watch I'd given him for his birthday, the cologne I loved that he wore on date nights. "You're really doing this?" I asked when he zipped the suitcase. "You're really walking out right now? I just told you I'm carrying your child, and you're literally packing a bag?" "I need space to think," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Space? You need space?" I laughed, but it came out harsh and broken. "What about what I need? What about what our baby needs? Don't do this, Rebecca. Don't make this harder than it has to be." "Harder for who? For you?" I followed him down the stairs, my bare feet slapping against the hardwood. "You're the one who cheated. You're the one who's running away. You don't get to act like the victim here." He paused at the front door, his hand on the knob. For a moment, I thought he might turn around, might realize the magnitude of what he was doing. But then he said, "I'll have my parents call you about arrangements." "Your parents?" I was screaming now. I couldn't help it. "You're having your mommy and daddy clean up your mess? I can't deal with this right now." And then he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him, and I heard his car start in the driveway. The engine revved once, twice, then faded into the distance. I stood in our entryway, my entryway now, I supposed, and looked around at the life we'd built together, the wedding photos on the wall, the couch we'd picked out together, arguing about the color for 3 hours in the furniture store, the coffee table where we'd eaten Chinese takeout every Friday night, watching whatever series we were binging. My phone rang. His mother. "Rebecca, dear." Patricia's voice was carefully modulated, the way it always was when she was about to say something unpleasant. "Chad just called. This is all very unfortunate." "Unfortunate?" I sank onto the couch. "Your son just abandoned his pregnant wife for his mistress, and you call it unfortunate? Well, what would you call it?" Her tone sharpened. "You've clearly been having problems. Chad mentioned you've been distant, focused on your career. I'm a teacher, Patricia. I'm hardly scaling corporate ladders at the expense of my marriage. Nevertheless, a marriage takes two people, and frankly, dear, Chad is too young to be tied down with a baby. He's only 33. He has his whole life ahead of him. And what about my life? I'm pregnant and alone." There was a pause, then she said the words that would haunt me for years. "Have you considered other options? It's still early, isn't it? No one would have to know." I hung up on her. My mother-in-law had just suggested I terminate my pregnancy to make her son's affair more convenient. The phone rang again immediately, but I turned it off. The next weeks blurred together in a haze of morning sickness and legal documents. Chad had lawyered up immediately, of course, his parents were paying for it. He wanted a quick, clean divorce. No custody arrangement needed since the baby wasn't born yet. He actually had his attorney suggest that we could revisit the issue after birth, as if our child was some business contract to be negotiated later. I spent my days teaching fifth graders about the American Revolution while my own life was in ruins. I'd run to the bathroom between classes to throw up, then splash cold water on my face and return to discussions about freedom and independence. The irony wasn't lost on me. My first prenatal appointment was on a Thursday. I sat in the waiting room surrounded by happy couples, husbands holding their wives' hands, touching their bellies, looking at baby name books together. When the nurse called my name, she looked behind me, expecting someone to follow. "Just me," I said, trying to smile. The ultrasound was everything and nothing like I'd imagined. There it was, a tiny blob with a flickering heartbeat, strong and steady at 152 beats per minute. My baby. Our baby. Chad's baby, who he'd never meet if he had his way. "Would you like a picture?" the technician asked. "Yes," I said, then burst into tears. She quietly handed me tissues and printed extra copies without my asking. That night, I sat on my bathroom floor, the same spot where I'd taken the pregnancy test, and stared at the ultrasound photo. I sent it to Chad with no message. He didn't respond. 3 days later, Melissa posted a photo on Instagram. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't have looked, but pain makes us do stupid things. There they were at a rooftop bar in Seattle, champagne glasses raised, the Space Needle glittering in the background. The caption read, "New city, new adventures with my love. Plessed, Seattle life, new beginnings, new beginnings." While I was picking out cribs alone at Target, trying not to cry when the saleswoman asked if my husband had any preferences, my sister Kate flew in from Boston that weekend. She took one look at me and wrapped me in a hug that lasted 5 minutes. "I'm going to kill him," she said into my hair. "Get in line," I mumbled against her shoulder. She stayed for a week, helped me pack up all of Chad's remaining things. We had a ceremonial burning of his college sweatshirt in the backyard fire pit, which probably wasn't the most mature response, but it felt good watching it turn to ash. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, watching the flames. "I still have to tell our child about him someday. Hey kiddo, your dad exists, he just chose not to know you." Winter came, and with it, my growing belly became impossible to hide. My students were the first to notice, of course. Kids always do. "Mrs. Morrison, are you having a baby?" little Emma asked one December morning. "I am," I said, and the class erupted in excited chatter. "Where's Mr. Morrison?" Tommy asked. "Is he excited?" Kids don't mean to be cruel with their honest questions. I smiled and deflected, but that afternoon I sat in my car in the school parking lot and sobbed until my eyes were nearly swollen shut. Christmas was the hardest. My parents tried their best. Mom fussing over me, Dad quietly assembling baby furniture in the spare room of my childhood home where I'd temporarily moved. But everywhere I looked, there were happy families. Every commercial showed husbands surprising their pregnant wives with jewelry. Every song seemed to be about love and togetherness. Chad's parents sent a check for $5,000 with a note that said, "For expenses." No mention of their grandchild. No questions about my health. Just money. As if that could solve everything. I cashed it anyway, pride doesn't pay for diapers. On New Year's Eve, while everyone else was kissing at midnight, I was in the emergency room with severe back pain. "False labor," they said. Stress-related. The nurse, a kind woman named Maria, held my hand when I cried. "Where's your support person?" she asked gently. "I don't have one." She stayed with me an extra hour after her shift ended. February brought the gender reveal I did alone in my doctor's office. It's a boy. I named him Tiago, after my grandfather. A strong name for what I hoped would be a strong boy who wouldn't need his father. I sent Chad a text. "It's a boy. Tiago Luis Morrison." He replied 6 hours later, "Okay." 2 letters. That's all his son was worth to him. The baby shower my sister threw was beautiful but bittersweet. My friends rallied around me, but there were awkward moments when people asked about Chad, not knowing the story. I became an expert at changing the subject, at pretending my heart wasn't shattered into a million pieces. You're glowing, everyone said. You're so strong, they told me. But at night, when Tiago would kick and roll inside me, I'd talk to him and cry. I'm sorry, I'd whisper. I'm so sorry your daddy isn't here, but I promise, I'll love you enough for both of us. Labor started at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday in April. I'd prepared for this. I had my hospital bag packed, a plan, my sister on speed dial. What I hadn't prepared for was the crushing loneliness of driving myself to the hospital while contractions ripped through my body. Kate made it just in time, flying in from Boston and running into the delivery room, still wearing her airplane clothes. She held my hand through 17 hours of labor, through the epidural that only half worked, through the moment when I thought I couldn't do it anymore. You can, she said fiercely. You're the strongest person I know. At 7:23 p.m., Tiago entered the world screaming. All 8 pounds. 3 ounces of him. They placed him on my chest, this tiny, perfect person, and every ounce of pain, physical and emotional, momentarily disappeared. Hi, baby, I whispered. I'm your mama. I've been waiting for you. He had Chad's nose. I tried not to think about that. The birth certificate was another knife twist. Father's name, blank. The nurse asked twice if I was sure, and both times I said yes, even though it felt like betraying my son. But Chad had made his choice. Those first weeks were a blur of no sleep, endless crying, both Tiago's and mine, and learning how to be a mother alone. My mom stayed for 2 weeks, and when she left, I stood in the doorway of my tiny apartment, holding my son, wondering how I was going to do this. Social media became my enemy and my addiction. I'd swear off checking Chad's profiles, then find myself scrolling at 3 a.m. while nursing. Melissa had posted about their trip to Hawaii, their new apartment with its view of Puget Sound, their couple's yoga classes, their perfect, childless life. Meanwhile, I was covered in spit-up, surviving on coffee and whatever I could eat one-handed, trying to figure out how to install a car seat from YouTube videos because there was no one else to help. The first time Tiago smiled, really smiled, not just gas, I cried for an hour. Chad was missing this. He was missing everything. His son's first laugh, the way he gripped my finger with his tiny hand, the sweet smell of his head after a bath. I sent one more text, a photo of Tiago at 1 month old. Your son is beautiful and healthy. This is my last attempt. If you want to know him, now's the time. He never responded. Tiago's first birthday came faster than I expected. One day I was bringing him home from the hospital. The next I was planning a party with a little farm animal theme because he loved the cow sounds in his favorite book. The morning of his birthday, I woke up to an unexpected email. Chad's father. Rebecca, Patricia, and I would like to establish a college fund for the child. Please send banking information. The child, not their grandson, not Tiago. The child. I sent back the information because, again, pride doesn't pay for college, but it stung. Their son had created this beautiful boy who was taking his first wobbling steps, who said mama and baba and laughed at peekaboo, and they reduced him to the child. The party was small but perfect. My parents, Kate, a few close friends and their kids. Tiago destroyed his smash cake with pure joy. Blue frosting in his hair, on his cheeks, probably in his ears. Everyone sang happy birthday, and I took approximately 300 photos. That night, after everyone left and Tiago was asleep, I sat with a glass of wine, my first in almost 2 years, and looked through the pictures. In every single one, I was smiling. Genuinely smiling. We were happy. We were okay. We were a family of 2. But we were complete. 2 months later, I met Oliver. It was nothing romantic at first. He was the new PE teacher at school, and we ended up talking at a staff meeting about curriculum integration. He was funny, kind, and when he found out I had a son, he didn't run. Instead, he asked to see pictures. He's adorable, he said, looking at a photo of Tiago covered in spaghetti sauce. How old? 14 months. Great age. My nephew just turned 2. The energy is insane, right? We became friends. Coffee in the teacher's lounge turned into lunch conversations, which turned into him offering to help when I mentioned needing to move Tiago's crib to a toddler bed. I'm pretty handy, he said. Plus, I have a truck if you need to haul anything. The first time Oliver met Tiago, my son hid behind my legs for exactly 30 seconds before Oliver pulled out a toy dinosaur from his pocket and made it do a silly dance. Tiago giggled and reached for it, and something in my chest, something I thought had died, flickered back to life. You came prepared, I said. I might have asked around about what toddlers like, he admitted with a sheepish grin. We weren't dating. Not officially. But when Tiago got sick with his first ear infection and Oliver showed up with children's Tylenol, popsicles, and a new book about trucks, I knew something was shifting. Life settled into a rhythm. Work, Tiago, and increasingly, Oliver. He never pushed, never assumed, just consistently showed up. When Tiago started preschool and cried every morning for a week, Oliver suggested we all go for ice cream afterward as a reward. When I had parent-teacher conferences until 8 p.m., he'd offer to pick up Tiago from daycare and take him to the park. "You don't have to do this," I told him one evening as he helped clean up after Tiago's particularly explosive art project. "I know," he said simply. "I want to." 3 years passed this way. Tiago grew from a toddler into a little boy with opinions about everything, a love of soccer, and an imaginary friend named Burrito, don't ask. Oliver and I finally officially became a couple when Tiago was 2.5, though we took it slow. Oliver understood that Tiago came first, always. The day Tiago called Oliver daddy for the first time, we were at the zoo. Oliver was lifting him up to see the giraffes better when Tiago pointed and said, "Look, daddy! The giraffe has a long neck like when you reach the high shelves." Oliver froze, looking at me with wide eyes. I nodded, tears in my eyes. Later, when Tiago was asleep in his stroller, Oliver asked, "Is it okay, him calling me that?" "He chose you," I said. "Just like you chose us." We got engaged on Tiago's 4th birthday. Oliver didn't make a big production. He knew I'd had that before, and it meant nothing. Instead, he simply got down on one knee in our living room after Tiago had gone to bed, both of us still covered in cake and exhausted from wrangling 15 preschoolers. "I love you," he said. "I love Tiago. I love our life. Will you let me keep loving you both forever?" The ring was simple, perfect. Nothing like the elaborate diamond Chad had given me, which I'd sold to pay for Tiago's nursery furniture. This one meant something. 2 weeks after our engagement, everything changed. We were at Tiago's first soccer game. He was terrible at it, of course most 5-year-olds are, but he was having fun, running in the wrong direction, occasionally remembering to kick the ball. Oliver and I were cheering from the sidelines, probably too enthusiastically, when I saw him. Chad, standing on the other side of the field, watching. He looked older, thinner, his hair was longer, but it was definitely him. My body recognized him before my brain did, my heart rate spiking, my hands going cold. "Babe?" Oliver noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" I couldn't speak. I just pointed. Chad started walking toward us, and I instinctively stepped in front of Oliver, as if I could shield my family from whatever was about to happen. When he got close enough, I could see the nervousness in his eyes, the way he kept running his hand through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. "Rebecca," he said, "what are you doing here?" My voice came out stronger than I felt. I heard about the game. From my mother. She's been keeping tabs." Of course she had. Patricia probably had a private investigator reporting on our every move. "You need to leave," Oliver said, stepping beside me. Not aggressively, but firmly, protectively. Chad looked at him, then at the ring on my finger. "You must be the new guy." "I'm the guy who's been here," Oliver said calmly. "Every day for 3 years. Every scraped knee, every nightmare, every soccer practice." Before Chad could respond, Tiago came running over, his face flushed with excitement. "Did you see? I almost kicked the ball in the goal." He hugged my legs. Then Oliver's, not even noticing the stranger standing there. Why would he? Chad was nobody to him. "Great job, buddy," Oliver said, ruffling his hair. "Why don't you go get your water bottle? We'll be right there." After Tiago ran off, Chad's face crumpled. "He doesn't know who I am." "No," I said, "he doesn't. That's what happens when you abandon your child before he's born and never show up for 5 years." "Rebecca, can we talk? Privately?" "No," but then I looked at Oliver, who nodded slightly. He understood. I needed closure. 5 minutes. That's it. We walked to the parking lot while Oliver kept Tiago distracted at the playground. Chad looked broken, nothing like the confident man who'd walked out of our house that October night. "Melissa left me," he said without preamble. 2 years ago. She met someone younger at her gym. I almost laughed at the karma of it, and you thought, what? You'd come back to your backup family? It's not like that. I've been thinking about Tiago. His name doesn't belong in your mouth. I've been thinking about my son, about what I missed. My therapist says, "You're in therapy?" "For a year now. I messed up, Rebecca. I know that. I panicked. I was selfish. I was terrible. You were all of those things. I want to make it right. I want to know him. And..." He paused, looking at me with eyes I once loved. "I still love you. I never stopped." I stared at Chad for a long moment. This man who'd once been my whole world, who'd shattered me so completely I thought I'd never recover. 5 years ago, those words might have meant something. 3 years ago, they might have made me waver. But now? "You don't love me," I said quietly. "You love the idea of me. The safety I represented. The family you threw away and now want back because your new life didn't work out. I'm not finished." My voice was steady, strong. "You say you want to know Tiago? He's 5 years old. He loves dinosaurs and hates broccoli. He's scared of thunder but pretends he's not. He sleeps with a stuffed elephant named Mr. Peanuts. His favorite color changes daily, but it's usually blue. He can count to 100 and he's learning to read. His first word was mama. His first steps were toward me, and his first day of school, he cried for exactly 12 minutes before making 3 new friends." Chad's eyes filled with tears, but I kept going. You missed all of that, not because you couldn't be there, but because you chose not to be. And Oliver? He didn't miss any of it. He taught Tiago to ride a bike last month. He reads him bedtime stories with different voices for each character. He sat in the emergency room with us when Tiago broke his arm falling off the monkey bars. He's not Tiago's father by blood, but he's his dad in every way that matters. I could fight for custody, Chad said weakly. You could try, but we both know you won't, because that would mean actually showing up, consistently, for someone other than yourself, and you've already proven you can't do that. I turned to go, then stopped. Your parents send money every month. I put it in Tiago's college fund. If you want to contribute to that, fine. But that's all you get to be a number in a bank account. You don't get to waltz in now and confuse my son, disrupt his life, just because you've had some therapeutic breakthrough. Rebecca, please. Some bridges, once burned, stay ash. Chad, you made your choice 5 years ago. Now I'm making mine. I walked back to my family, my real family. Oliver was pushing Tiago on the swings, both of them laughing. When Tiago saw me, he jumped off and ran over. Mama. Ollie says we can get pizza. Pizza sounds perfect, I said, scooping him up and kissing his cheek. As we walked to the car, Oliver quietly asked, "You okay?" "I'm perfect," I said, and meant it. Chad was still standing in the parking lot when we drove away. I didn't look back. That night, after Tiago was asleep, Oliver and I sat on the couch, my head on his shoulder. "He might try to come back again," Oliver said. "Maybe. But it doesn't matter. We have everything we need right here." 2 months later, we got married in a small ceremony in my parents' backyard. Tiago was the ring bearer, taking his job very seriously, walking slowly down the aisle with the rings on a pillow, only dropping them twice. When Oliver officially adopted Tiago 6 months after that, our son proudly told everyone at school that he had the best dad in the world. Chad never contacted us again. His parents still send their monthly checks, which I accept without guilt. It's the least they can do. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about us, about the life he threw away, but mostly, I don't think about him at all. Because I'm too busy living. Too busy watching Oliver teach Tiago to play catch. Too busy helping with homework and making Halloween costumes and planning family vacations. Too busy being happy with the family I chose and who chose me back. The family I was meant to have all along.